I was looking that up because just a few minutes ago I was watching Alien Covenant because I hate myself. It's such a bad movie. It's such a genuinely bad movie. Oh my god. And I was going to talk about how it's such a bad movie and how Ozymandias, I believe, is a really huge problem with the movie, or at least it's emblematic of the entire problems with the movie. Fun fact, I was going to write an entire series about why Alien Covenant was such a bad movie, and I actually did write an entire script. It was going to be my first scripted episode, but I ended up throwing it away because we don't do scripts here, as you can probably tell.
Haha, look at this dumbass. He has no idea what he's in for. Alright, let's get this off my checklist. Alien Covenant, let's go. There's a lot of things to hate about Alien Covenant. The first act is insanely boring, the CGI is unconvincing to say the least, and James Franco is in it. That's actually not a joke, by the way. He shows up for what is essentially a cameo that could have been played by literally any other actor, but instead, it's James Franco for no reason. It's a real distraction. Actually, now that I mention it, there's a lot of small moments like that. The fact that all the crew members are married, to each other, never really adds up to anything in the story. Having David recite Ozymandias leads to an interesting reveal, but I would argue that if your movie's gonna have a thesis, and this one clearly does, and you feel compelled to pander to the lit nerd crowd, there's better, less abused poems that are more thematically relevant. Like The Destruction of Sennacherib, which I'm horribly butchered the pronunciation of probably. Funnily enough, it was written by Lord Byron though. Also, contrasting David's homoeroticism with Walter's asexuality is just one of those things that's cool until you think about all the implications of making your passionate, over-emotional villain gay and juxtaposing him with your hero who's stoic, cold, and a literal asexual robot. I love the inclusivity, but you're not really doing either of those groups any good with those stereotypes. And actually, I could go into this entire episode on that last one alone, but yeah, we're not going to do that. Instead, I really want to talk about the Neomorph and why it's clearly a better monster in Alien Covenant. For those that haven't seen it, Alien Covenant is about this colonist mission trying to set up a base on an unexplored planet. For reasons we don't need to go into, they decide to land on a completely different unexplored alien world, and for like half a second they think about setting up a colony here. But then some of the crew gets sick, and then surprise, it's an alien. This is a Neomorph, BT dubs. We'll get back to them later. Okay, so there's aliens on this planet, and they eat a few people, but they're saved by this android named David. David takes them back to his house and tells them a whole bunch of BS you really don't need to know. TLDR, David crashed here 10 years ago and he's been trying to make xenomorphs, these guys from the Alien movie. Did I mention that this is a prequel? This is a prequel. Anyways, what's left of the crew makes it off planet, but a xenomorph sneaks onto the ship, as does David. The xenomorph is killed, but David isn't, and the movie ends by implying that David is going to use the rest of the colonists to make more xenomorphs. Roll credits. So you may have noticed that I mentioned two almost completely identical monsters in that description, and that's because I absolutely did. The neomorphs are essentially white xenomorphs, and the xenomorphs are essentially just black neomorphs. So what makes me so certain that neomorphs are better than Okay, you know what? We're just gonna call them Neos and Zoes, okay? Okay, so why not use Zoes? They have all the prestige, the audience recognition, and I mean, if you absolutely have to have a Zoe in your movie for the trailer, why would you bother reinventing Zoes? Well, it's because the thing that makes Zoe so memorable is just how specific of a monster Zoes are. If most monsters use bazookas when they target your fear, then Zoes are more into scalpels. Zoe, as seen in the first Alien movie, preys on our fear of being physically violated. Then there's the literal hideous birth, and it moves on to being a predator. The alien in Alien hunts its victims down, making them rightfully feel helpless. It moves through vents, so if you want to take it on, you better not have any claustrophobia, and even if you do end up hurting it, there's acid blood. See, Zoes are designed to disempower its prey and the audience by blending into its dark environment. It works best in closed-off areas with tight spaces, and like most monsters, it's most effective against people who aren't equipped to deal with this kind of threat. So I'll ask the question again, if Zoes and Neos are interchangeable, why bother reinventing Zoes? Well, I feel like I already answered that question. This is the wrong environment, and it's definitely the wrong circumstances. Covenant takes place on a lush, green planet with miles of open space, and the cast is a colony crew. They have quarantine protocol and machine guns and security personnel just for this specific problem. They came prepared. But what about the ship, I can hear you ask? See, that's actually the main reason I think this movie was meant for Neos. The Covenant, that's the name of the ship by the way, is clean, brightly lit, and here's an important detail, white. Okay, here's a little color theory for you. The inside of the stasis chamber, the area where they keep the actual colonists waiting, is a pure, pleasant white, which usually symbolizes peace, comfort, sterility, or purity. This is what's at stake. The colonists are important.
We understand, but if we don't make these repairs, we will lose all the colonists.
T, I know your wife is down there, but up here, you're in command. And your responsibility is to the colonists.
Do we know that?
Have we been infected?
You'd know by now.
We have to be certain. We can't take this back to the ship. We're a colony mission.
Really? How extraordinary.
You know what else is white? Neos. Not only would they blend in decently with this environment, they're also not quite white. They're pale, sickly, off-white, a corruption of the purity we see in the colony pods. For the record, they also turn whoever they infect into pale ghosts of their former selves. And yeah, I said infect. Remember when I said Zoe's play on our fears of being physically violated? Well, Neos don't need facehuggers. Instead, they use the pollen spores from these fungus thingies, which is some painfully obvious virus imagery. And this makes, like, all the sense in the world, right? What's more dangerous to a group of colonists than disease? Do you see how Neos play off the specific circumstances of Covenant? Even the planet lends itself better to Neos. Zoes aren't exactly slow, but I would say they're more into stalking and stealth. Again, poorly suited to an open, organic environment. Whereas Neos are all about speed. They're small and agile, they get in and out as fast as possible and deal as much damage as possible. Part of the dangers of Zoes is that you absolutely can shoot them, it's just that you'll hurt yourself in the process. But not these things. Neos move way too fast for a human to reasonably shoot, aka their weapons and training aren't effective here. Alright, look, I don't want to get in the habit of telling people how to write their stories, but the fix here is so obvious I seriously doubt the end result was the intended outcome. It's easy. Get rid of David and Zoe, and this movie suddenly becomes a focused, personal story about relationships, the strong bond of a family, and dealing with loss. I mean, that's what this story is to begin with, right? I think that's the most frustrating part of Alien Covenant. There's a good movie in there buried underneath all this pointless, boring lore and unrelatable existentialism. I just wish someone bothered to dig it out. Oh well, my name's not important, and hey, thank you for watching. Laters.
'Cause people are ugly and people are hateful, destructive and greedy. We're proud and ungrateful. The world would be so much better off without us. So swallow up the handful of them. We're all compost and training, there's grains left to fill. Distract ourselves to make us feel like we're not just mistakes.
Distract ourselves to make us feel like we're not just
My
mistakes.
friend